Air travel is the safest travel we have, right? So,
Yeah.
but we don't let our frontal lobe drive our decision making. Oftentimes, we let our limbic system do it. And I have a whole emotional functioning series on this, and it's why it's important to know our 10 core emotions and act with reason, not emotion. So anyway, we say, all right, well, what's your solution? We say, well, we're going to stop mass shootings by banning the air. All right, well, logically, that doesn't make any sense. There's 25 million AR-15s in the country, and you're not going to control them all. But what is it about the AR-15 that you don't like? Or what do you think will impact the mass shooting? We'll just
scary.
focus. We'll pretend that, right. We'll pretend that statistical irrelevance is something we can control. How do you control it? I don't like that it shoots a bunch of bullets. Well, it only shoots one bullet at a time every time you pull the trigger. Okay. Well, now we're talking all semi-automatic weapons. So handguns, shotguns. And it's like, well, okay, now you're talking about banning all guns again. Unless you're talking like the old-fashioned bolt-action rifles. And if you're talking about lethality, because people say, oh, the AR-15 shoots the .223 round and it destroys flesh and all this stuff. It's like, well, if you're talking lethality, it's actually not that. You want to ban the 30-06s and the 300, the 300 Blackout and the 6.5 Creedmoors and all the bigger rounds. We don't want to attack the .223. So at every turn, we can have that debate about what's reasonable, and it always comes down to education and personal responsibility. If we talk about banning certain things, you could say, well, people are going to get around the law anyway because all you're doing is keeping the honest people honest. So I'm a bigger fan of education over restriction. I think restriction is a never-ending treadmill of chasing things that you're just never going to achieve. So from there, I go back to let's have a reasonable conversation about what we want to achieve. And we go back to the medical model of what people do when they walk into counseling, for example. What's the problem? The problem is too many gun deaths. Cool. Let's talk suicides, because that's the biggest percentage of all the gun deaths. All right, what's the problem? Too many suicides. All right, what's the goal? Reduce suicides. Well, by how many? Now we have to quantify it. So I don't want to throw out the evidence-based practice that we crap on all the time. It's like, it's not for nothing. We need quantifiable metrics. We need reasonable articulable goals. We need time limitations on this. So how many suicides is enough? Well, now we're debating death. How much death is acceptable? Nobody's going to say that some death is acceptable. So I say 0 is not a goal. 0 cannot be the goal. It's not even reasonable, let alone possible. So, then we get these programs like Zero Suicide. Zero suicide is not a reasonable goal. Stop saying that. Stop putting artificial, unattainable goals in people's consciousness. It's not good for anyone. Because then every time you have a suicide, you think you're a failure. Now it becomes binary. It's like, well, we didn't get 0 suicides, therefore we fail. It's like, well, no, but you went from 39,000 firearm suicides a year to 20,000. I'd say that's a success if we educate people, if we get them the mental health help they need. And that goes to something else that's a sacred cow in our field, which is I want to work myself out of a job. So I give away a lot of stuff for free. Podcasts, YouTube videos. I want everybody to learn emotional functioning. If they learn emotional functioning and know it well and can articulate it and validate it in other people, maybe you stop coming through my damn door. I'm fine if everybody heals and there's no suicides and there's no divorces and there's no kids getting bullied on the playground and I have to close up shop, but I still got 8 years left on my lease. I'll turn it into a brew pub and coffee shop. I'm not attached to this. My self is not identified as therapist. That's not who I am. It's just something I do to help Earth get better. So I'm trying to work myself out of a job, but that threatens the whole structure. It threatens the whole enterprise if everybody gets well, but I want everybody well. And I want you to be well. I'm not going to delude myself into thinking that government can pass a safe law to restrict child access and that's somehow going to make everybody better. No, I want to hit the problem of why you were irresponsible in the first place. Why did you think it was okay to store a loaded chambered handgun within child reaching distance? That's not good. And I'm not going to send you to jail over it because now I've just broken up your family and sent your children into foster care. Like what? That doesn't make any sense. We just created more work for the social workers? No. No. Education. If we're going to do some policy of some sort and we're going to use taxpayer dollars, we might as well use them to buy locking mechanisms for everybody, right? But compelling people into doing behaviors that we think they should be doing is not a good business. It is good for business, I suppose, because you draw down grant money. But that's not where I want to go. I want to go somewhere where we're encouraging autonomy and liberty based on good information and allowing people to make proper decisions, that's where we should spend our efforts. And if this thing, like the Surgeon General came out and said, gun violence is a public health crisis, and I reject the phrase gun violence, by the way. I think that guns cannot be violent. They're an inanimate object. That's no such different than microphone violence. Like, I'm going to hit you over the head with this thing. It's like, it's not me, it was the microphone. Let's sue the manufacturer. But if it's truly a public health issue, then we should do what we do with every other public health matter, which is educate. We educate everybody about smoking. We educate everybody about osteoporosis. We educate everybody about eating too much sugar. It's education first. We don't start banning butter because we think butter is bad. Like, no, we go teach everybody. But that's not happening. So for whatever reason, this gun thing it's been ideologically driven, and we've lost a lot of reason. But there are hopeful signs emerging from people in the research community who, when they talk to people like me and Mike, go, I had no idea. I had no idea that these data that are being used to create policies could be having a deleterious effect on the very thing we're trying to solve, which is quite cool. There are inroads, and there's reason for optimism.